Hey, and welcome to another episode of Late TV Fights. We've got a very fun match here. We've got two more debuting combatants. One that has been sort of sitting, waiting for all the tournaments, waiting patiently. And we've got someone who sort of said they wanted to quite recently, and I threw them together and we've got a match. But before I go to the competitors, we've got some great judges here. You would have seen him last week. We've got Matt Graham here. Matt, how are you feeling?
I'm ready to watch somebody else debate. After last week, I'm ready to just sit back and listen to somebody else do this.
And also here, he was the judge last week, is Nikki. Nikki, how are you feeling today?
Oh, I'm so relieved. I thought I was going to be here alone hosting this thing. So I'm so relieved right now that I just have to judge. I just came off judging another battle from a minute ago. So I'm primed. I'm ready to go. I've been doing this for a while. So here we go. Let's go. I have no other words.
And now we'll go to the competitors. Ryan, you've been sort of in the league for a while. You finally we got you into a match. How are you feeling about your competitor and got any words?
I'm gonna keep this as short as I can. I am, to be honest, when it came to TV fights, I almost confused it with nerd fights too, because it felt like I'm gonna be arguing the same categories. But just like how I would always confuse Game Zone and Sports Battleground, this time it's gonna play to my favor, hopefully. But my opponent, honestly, I'm going to treat him like every other opponent I come across. I mean, he's going to be a mountain. He's going to be this mountain of an opponent I have to face, and let's just see where I go from there. Ultimately, if I end up talking too much, I know it's going to be to my downfall or to my benefit.
And second competitor here is Kevin, the Postman Post. Kevin, how are you feeling about the match?
I'm feeling good. I know Ryan is he's got some smarts about him. I know he's had this match on his mind for a while. So, looking over these questions, I'm pretty nervous, but hopefully I can put the nerves to the side for a minute, focus solely on the match, and convince the judges that I know what I'm talking about.
So how the match works is we've got 4 prepared questions here, and so if one person gets it's first to 3 questions points. I can't speak at the moment, but yeah, basically first to 3 wins. If you get 3 points and your opponent gets nothing, then it's considered a knockout. But if the opponent gets 1 point, then it's just a win. If it's a tie, we go to a speed round question. And now how the rounds work, with the exception on if it's a pitch question, the opening is going to be 1 in 90 seconds. The main round is 5 minutes. And the closing is 1 minute. In a pitch question, though, I have the opening relatively open, and there's no really official time limit, but I will stop them if I feel like they're going to talking too much. The main round is 7 minutes where they get to debate person's pitch won't work, and then 1 minute, the closing is the same as always, 1 minute, but yeah. And I'll talk about the speed round if we get to it. But yeah. Right. The first question is the aforementioned pitch question. We've seen comments on the board about the ending of Game of Thrones Season 8. Everyone loved it. Everyone was happy. No one complained.
Excellent.
But yeah, the question is, pitch a new ending to Game of Thrones. And I'm going to go to Kevin first for his opening. So pitch how Game of Thrones should have ended.
Game of Thrones Season 8, was very controversial. At first, when I watched it, I knew immediately that Dan and Dave had made a mistake when they had cut the episode number to 6. That was an immediate mistake because George R. R. Martin has already come out and said he has 3,000 pages of manuscript still left to write, two books, and even though we don't know what's in those books, Dan and Dave know the ending, so they could have done more with what they had, even if it wasn't exactly how the ending was going to be. Now, how I would pitch the ending, I would take from the Battle of Winterfell is where I would start, and I would begin season 8 there. I would make it a full season of 10 episodes, making some episodes longer than others, and I would have certain characters dying earlier than they did in the season that we saw. I would have Arya dying early for Sansa. I would have Sansa dying for the Hound, as we saw their relationship blossoming in the book. I would have Jamie completing his arc, dying in Brienne's arms. I would have the Night King nowhere near Winterfell at this time. His army could take care of everything at Winterfell. Him and Dead Viserion could have moved on to King's Landing because everybody they killed, they could raise, and that's their new army as they move along. So, the thing is, so as the Night King leaves the army to destroy Winterfell, as he goes to King's Landing, uses Zombie Viserion, lays that city to waste, all of Westeros along the way. Cersei does live, though, in my version. She leaves holed up in a ship with Euron Greyjoy. He doesn't have as much of a story in my episodes because there's just not enough time to flesh him out like in the books, and I don't like the way they did it in Dan and Dave's story. So Cersei does escape, though, because in the end I want her. I'll explain that in the end.
Yeah, I'll stop you there, as I
Okay.
think it's a good opening there. Ryan, you've got however long you want to pitch, and then yeah.
Like my opponent, I do agree that the creators made a mistake truncating the episodes down to 6, like they did with season 7, even though there were 7 episodes. To be honest, the moment they cut the episodes down from the full order of 10, I knew we were not going to get a happy ending, or at least an ending that would satisfy us. So for season 8, I mainly decided to focus on the last 2 episodes, which mainly starts off with having Daenerys' dragon Rhaegal survive the attack from Euron's ships. And from there on, I would structure the episode to where Dany is feeling isolated, not just from this little paranoid feeling she got, but knowing that because of her dragon, she always remains as an ultimate threat. And despite Tyrion's best efforts to sway her to try to be a benevolent leader, she ultimately realizes that Cersei has the land, has everyone in King's Landing on her side. I mean, they've all drunk from Cersei's cup. So Daenerys has no choice but to be the commanding ruler, the invader she's been painted as. So which carries on into pretty much the battle where with her dragons, she storms King's Landing, having Jon and the troops storm from the front with Rhaegal there, and her using her dragon to destroy the ships. But here's where it goes from here. In the battle, Rhaegal dies, mainly because Jon hesitantly trying to, not kill any innocent civilians, Rhaegal dies to one of the ballistics at the tower, which, with Dany seeing that, throws her into a rage to where instead of the whole city surrendering, she chooses to destroy the city in retaliation to losing her dragon. So ultimately, she not only wins, she destroys a portion of King's Landing, she captures Cersei, and instead of Cersei, of course, refusing to give up, she's not going to give in to anything, Daenerys instead feeds Cersei to her dragon, killing Cersei. And then the following episode 6, the finale, there's the aftermath. Jaime discovers in his failure he was unable to save Cersei. Tyrion discovers that Cersei died through a brutal death, her and the unborn child, which convinces and inspires Tyrion to kill Dany, but he pretends to still be on her side to where he chooses to poison her, but discovering that the poison is not working, he grabs a dagger that he had taken from the body of a dead Lannister soldier and kills her with it. After discovering the body, Grey Worm captures him and decides to sentence him to death as an example for those who betrays the queen. Which leads into the council, the council of all the hierarchy, the lords and ladies of Westeros, where they decide on a new leader without Tyrion influencing them through probably much hours and days and weeks of debating. They ultimately decide to choose Gendry as the new king because Dany did christen him as, oh crap, it's been a while since I've seen the show, but she did christen. He's no longer a bastard now. He is now seen as the legitimate son of Robert Baratheon. And from there, they decide where to build on from there. And Jon, just losing Daenerys, seeing what the many mistakes he has made, ultimately realizes he can't trust himself when it comes to war. He abdicates the throne before anyone else can discover who he is. And he ends up going back to the Night's Watch on his own terms. He's not exiled there. No one's forced him there. He chooses to go there by himself and remain for the rest of his days. I will stop.
All right. So we've got two interesting different endings. 7 minutes on the clock. Time begins when someone starts talking.
So basically, you have just the same exact ending. You're just subbing out characters. You got Rhaegal dying instead of
Drogon. I said Rhaegal survived the attack at Dragonstone, which Jon rides him during the battle, which leads him to die. Because I changed the circumstances to her destroying the King's Landing instead of that long take of her looking at them bells, having to be explained by the creators why she decides to choose that. And if it's a Daenerys character, she's always been emotionally reactive to what she's lost. When her dragons were captured, one of the things she did, she found not only did she get the dragons back, she punished the person who betrayed her by locking her in a crypt to starve for days. When Jorah betrayed her, she could have had many instincts to kill him, but she chose to get her as far away. Dany has always emotionally reacted to when a situation.
I think her sparing Jorah shows her being non-reactive. But anyway,
Tyrion convinced her to spare him.
But in my instance, with everybody after the Battle of Winterfell, if Jon, Daenerys, Drogon, Rhaegal, and what's left of their armies all head for King's Landing, they think they're going to find the Night King there. But as they near the God's Eye, Bran, he is the three-eyed raven, tells them to stop. He advises Jon alone that he alone has to go to the Isle of Faces and meet the Night King, settle this once and for all.
And
because they killed the Night King off far too soon. That story didn't even get tied up.
Well, that was ultimately the issue of a truncated season. I'm not trying to redo all of it. I just want to fix the couple of episodes. I'm not saying I'm proposing a happy ending. I'm trying to pitch something that would logically tie in to what has been done in season 8. Dany, Kristen legitimizing.
You're trying to rewrite what's happened in season 8. I'm trying to propose.
season 8 too. Sure, there's different.
I'm just trying to leave it open ended so that we can see what may happen in these next 3,000 pages.
I'm trying to introduce like consequences to people's actions. What one thing fell apart from the ending of episode 8. Episode 6. In season 8, Daenerys dies because she became a mad queen. Instead, she dies because she has to suffer the consequence of not only brutally killing Cersei, but all the people in the land. And it made sense with Tyrion killing her because he feels strongly not only for his sister, but for the people of King's Landing, as it has shown in previous seasons. Also, with him killing her that way, he also has to make peace with the fact that of who he is, not just as a dwarf as an imp, but he has always been painted as a villain. So he's making peace with that. And I also left it open-ended on whether he dies or not. Sure, he's sentenced to death, but it doesn't mean he could. I also said that I didn't mention Jaime died. He could break Tyrion out, and the two of them could escape. I'm leaving Tyrion's fate open-ended. While when it comes to
you said Tyrion discovered the unborn child, kills Dany, and then Grey Worm killed Tyrion to make an example out of him.
No, I said he sentenced him to be executed.
No, you said he killed him to make an example out of him, and then they had the council without Tyrion.
Well, yeah, Tyrion does not have to be there.
I don't think they need a council, but...
Well, it was obviously shown in episode 6. The Lords don't want to rule. They want a king. They want someone else on the head of the throne. With Gendry there, it continues the wheel of not idiot leaders, but just figureheads. I'm trying to tie up the series the way it was presented to us, the way the world was. Having you just rewrite all this stuff, it's not as different as what many people on YouTube or on Twitter or on Reddit has been trying to say, oh, I want to kill this character. I want this character to die. Let the Night King win, or let all of this happen. What my pitch is just not to fix, but to just modify and leave it on a dour note that fits the story of Game of Thrones. Sure, George R.R. Martin has already said that, well, he's not said, but it's clear that in his books, he's not gonna change anything that they did, at least with the ending. He's just gonna have some more stories to tell within those two books. But what you have before you, and it might be a good idea for a season, but it's gonna take a lot long for an ending. And I don't know how you're gonna be able to get that done in 6 episodes.
There's no way to get it done in 6 episodes. That's my point. And I don't think that's even the ending that he intended. I think that Dan and Dave just wanted to dump Game of Thrones because they had made their bank and they knew they had a Star Wars contract to reach out for. But anyway, so after Bran does kill the Night King with the Dragonglass dagger, not Arya, and he shatters into 1,000 tiny pieces. So that makes Bran turn into he is the new Night King. Anyway, Jorah moves up. He's the 1,000th Lord Commander.
Bran and Night King. What would that entail to exactly? Because
somebody has to be in control of all of the people north of the Wall, all in the lands of Always Winter.
No, the Night King is pretty much someone who's dead. You're talking about the king of the free folk. And
no, that's not who I'm talking about.
That's not what you're talking about.
No, I'm talking about those people are actually in my scenario, I consider them as part of Jon Daenerys' army that are coming south. In my scenario, at the end, they leave Westeros a complete frozen land. It ends as it began, a complete frozen wasteland, and they leave for Essos, and they don't even know that Cersei lives, and that's how it ends.
In my scenario, the free folk, they just remain. They just like in episode 3, their job is done. They don't have there's nothing more to be required of them. They fought for what the promise that Jon had given them, and with Jon, in my scenario, having to go back to the Night's Watch, it doesn't mean he leaves with the free folk, but he just goes back there because in his gut he feels that in the north, at least the true
Time.
north has the. You say time?
Yep.
Okay.
Good job, Brian.
Oh, this was a tongue twister.
Yeah, man, that was crazy.
Yeah, it hasn't ended yet, but you still got the closings. But because Kevin went first on the opening, Ryan, you're going to go first on the closing. 1 minute is on the clock. Time begins when you start talking.
My pitch to the ending of Game of Thrones is just taking two episodes that pretty much solidified amongst the fans how divisive the ending is, by just tweaking the narrative a little bit so it focuses more not on Daenerys declining to madness, but just to her realizing that despite her being this beloved leader in Westeros, she is just there's this story that has been painted to her ever since she arrived has been she's a conqueror. She's a villain coming to kill everybody in sight. And no matter how hard she tries, how benevolent she tries to be, unfortunately, she has no choice but just to play the role. This is something that she didn't want, but she has no choice in order to set the world, in order to free King's Landing from Cersei. But having Rhaegal die during the battle at King's Landing, not only it kind of in a way slightly pushes Daenerys. I need to put headphones on. I don't know if anyone can hear, but I got dogs barking like crazy, and it just distracted
me. Kevin, you got 1 minute on the clock. Time begins when you start talking.
Game of Thrones season 8 ended far too soon. Arya should have died early in the season. The season should have been at least a full 10 episodes. Arya should have died for her sister to complete her arc. Her sister should have died for the Hound to complete that arc. Jaime should have died in Brienne's arms to complete that arc. Cersei and Jaime should have escaped to leave us wondering what might have happened, and we should have left out all of this fluff because George R.R. Martin has so many more pages, so much more information, and I want to see it on the screen. I don't want to wonder. I didn't need to see the Golden Company without the elephants. I didn't need to see Ed Sheeran on the screen. So
that was definitely a heated battle, but yeah, Matt, who are you going to give your point to and why?
I'm going to give my point to Ryan. He explained what he would change and why. He explained that he would change the way that the battle at King's Landing happened, what happened to Daenerys, and how it ended. Kevin, on the other hand, kind of was pushing he wants to write the book. So just based on the question itself and more, in my opinion.
And Nikki, who are you going to give your point to and why?
Well, Kevin, I think you made some very bold choices as far as characters go. You had a huge story thought out. You really thought into how could this end differently than it did on the TV show. Ryan, I think your argument was slightly better just as far as the show goes. I think the choices you made just were a little bit more in line with the characters that we saw. So I got to give the point to Ryan.
And with that, Ryan gets the first blood on this. The next question that we've got is, I wrote this question about the time the Emmys were happening, which was a while back now, but made me wonder, which TV actor that has never won an Emmy Award for any of the acting performances is most deserved of one. And because Kevin went first on the opening, the last one, Ryan, you go first here. 90 seconds is on the clock. Time begins when you start talking.
I would have to say, just like the Oscars or the Golden Globes, the Emmys also is kind of second or third when it comes to certain performances, certain films that are either robbed or, people say were chosen wrong. But at least when it comes to TV performances from an actor or actress, I decided to pick an actress who, when I looked at exactly how many times she was nominated, my jaw dropped wondering why didn't she win just once at the Emmys. And that actress is Angela Lansbury for her performance in the TV show Murder, She Wrote. In Murder, She Wrote, she was nominated 12 times. I'm going to count that 12 times. From 1985 all the way to 1996 when the series ended. Consecutive Emmy nominations, and she did not win a single time. She won Golden Globes for her performances, but she never won when it came to Emmys. Now, I'm pretty sure the actresses who beat her are warranted as well. But when it comes to Angela Lansbury, such a great actress as she is, and seeing that she was always, when it comes to episodes of Murder, She Wrote that she was a part of, she always played her character of Jessica with such dignity and also with some dry wit comedy involved in a show that is sort of a cop procedural, but her character is pretty much a novelist who has she's a murder mystery novelist who has some acute detective abilities and
time.
Oh, damn. I should have saved those 10 seconds. I should have taken the 10 seconds from talk.
But Kevin, 90 seconds is on the clock. Time begins when you start talking.
I chose a little bit newer, a newer actor. I chose British actor turned American actor Hugh Laurie. He was nominated from 2005 to 2011 for Outstanding Lead Actor in a Drama Series and lost every single year. And in 2011, that was just ridiculous because he was fighting against Breaking Bad only through 2010. And 2011 was Mad Men, Friday Night Lights, Dexter, Boardwalk Empire, Justified. That was it. So that was ridiculous. He's so talented. He did win some Golden Globes, but he had House, he had Blackadder, a bit of Brian Laurie, and I'll get into some of those as well as some of his cameos, and I'll bequeath the rest of my time.
All right. So, and this is one that when both these suggestions brought up, I actually had to double check to make sure they did, because I could not believe neither of these person had won an Emmy Award. So, but 5 minutes is on the clock, and time begins when someone starts talking.
It's clear here that both actors clearly both have been wrong. Neither of them have been nominated consecutively. And I do like how you mentioned, like in 2010 and 11, you said it was unfair because of the shows it was against. But with Angela Lansbury, from her time for between 1988 and late 80s to early 90s, she had gone up against shows like Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman, Cagney and Lacey when it came to the actresses. Actually, both of the actresses in Cagney and Lacey were in 5 years straight nominated in the same lead actress category as she was, and both of them interchangeably won. If you want to talk about the odds being stacked against an actor, I would say those odds seem a bit unfair.
I agree. House, Hugh Laurie, not only was he House, but he's also been put up for Emmys on Veep. He also was Dr. Chance on Hulu's Chance. I don't know if anybody had a chance to see that, but it really was a good short-lived thriller show. He was on BBC One's The Night Manager. I brought up a bit of Brian Laurie, Blackadder, and before anybody brings it up, there are English or British Emmys.
The does, but
but he hasn't even won any of those.
But it's mainly straight here. The focus is on the Emmys, and I could too.
I agree, but he hasn't even won those. That's what I'm saying. It's so crazy.
I mean, yeah, Angela, and the shows you mentioned that she was part of, Angela Lansbury, before she had Murder, She Wrote of 12 seasons, she was also part of a show that's definitely wide amongst pop culture, and that is The Golden Girls. And trust me when I tell you, she may have not been, she had definitely a stint being part of that show. But to see the fact that a character of Jessica, a mystery novelist, she not only commanded the screen, she compared to Hugh Laurie, whose character of House was at top, even though his character was a brilliant doctor, but most of the times he was loved for being a jerk. Her character was loved because she was just charming. I'm not gonna say a charming old woman, but she was a charming woman who was strong in her field, passionate in what she did, and being a novelist, and also lent a an acute mind when it came to doing detective work to a genre of a sort of a genre of cop procedures that is still being adapted to this day. If it comes to shows like Psych, when it comes to even cop drama like Castle, or even The Rookie, even though technically it's still technically a cop show.
You make those points about Hugh Laurie, but he came to America after his prime in England, changed his accent, and became that asshole snark with a fake limp doctor with all those medical terms, and still could not seal that Emmy. That is so ridiculous. I mean, he was so good on that show with his snarkiness, his ability to come up with with his puns. I know it was David Shore, but you have to give him credit for the way he played off of that ensemble cast, even when they had the soft stories, like the story about his leg, the stories that kind of pulled at your heartstrings. He was great in those stories. The stories about how he got it. That's the story about how he got addicted to pain pills. I mean,
well, yeah, but even in that story, he was still a bit of a jerk. The whole thing with the leg.
That's his character, though.
Yeah, he's a character though. But even now with the leg, his character mainly uses it as a crutch to get away with everything. With Angela though, her moniker her moniker as a mystery novel in the show Murder, She Wrote, whenever her character would try to get involved in murders, either murders or certain crimes happening in the town, the cops obviously, when it came to a good push and pull back, when it came to the show, wanted nothing to do with her, and they would always change it up to either there's one cop who will do anything to make sure she doesn't solve a crime, or there's a cop that will invite her on.
House went up against CSI Miami. Like, he went up against good shows like that too. Good mystery shows, good crime dramas.
As Murder, She Wrote during the 80s, and this was in the 80s at a time, was when you had so many different cop procedurals. Cagney and Lacey, TJ Hooker. I mean, there was Police
Law and Order.
Law and Order, as you
Time.
mentioned. Oh, man.
I
swear.
We get to the close.
I feel like we need more time to talk about this, but then I
think we should send this to the Emmys.
And then they won't nominate us.
Actually, this is the one I was talking about, Malcolm. Just FYI.
But anyway, we get to the now we get to the closings. Because Ryan went first on the opening, Kevin, you're going to go first on the closing. 1 minute is on the clock. Time begins when you start talking.
I chose Dr. Gregory House, aka Hugh Laurie, because he began in Britain. We used to watch Blackadder with Rowan Atkinson, written by Richard Curtis, because of its historical drama. He was not only he was not only in an old Middle Ages setting, he was also the Prince Regent, Prince of Wales, a complete idiot. Then he moves here. He becomes Gregory House, MD, and cannot seal an Emmy to save his life. 7 years. I know he was going up against some tough competition, but there's no reason he shouldn't have won. He had some good shows: Veep, Chance, a bit of Fry and Laurie, The Night Manager. Not to mention he
Time.
cameoed on The Simpsons.
But, and now we go into Ryan, who stood up looking all serious face for his closing. 1 minute is on the clock. Time begins when you start talking.
Was just going through all my notes trying to figure out a way and how I can make this possible, but unfortunately I just have to just go for this. Angela Lansbury's portrayal of Jessica Fletcher, the murder mystery novelist who in her town of Maine is swept into the intrigue of murders, crimes. The fact that this show lasted 12 seasons during the time of the 80s, where so many cop procedural shows would only last maybe a maximum of 6 seasons, tells you the strength of the premise of this show, but also the character, the performance that Angela Lansbury gives. She gives this woman of a novelist who will come off as maybe as condescending or demeaning. She gives her a sense of warmth, a sense of nurturing ability that would make anyone want to like her character. And the fact that this show is on syndication, you find it on TV Land or on any net, or on most networks on older cable channels. It's just the fact that 12 years and no win, not even once. It's so it feels kind of insulting when it comes to Angela Lansbury. The caliber that she. God, I should set up.
Another good one, Ryan.
Yeah.
Because my vote didn't matter last time, I'll go first here. I'm going to give my point to Ryan on this. Nothing against you, Kevin. I think that Ryan managed to get enough points in there that weren't so much counted by you, so why Angela didn't deserve it. I think Ryan just got enough points about why Angela deserved it to get the point for me. But yeah, it was really close though. Nikki, who are you going to give your point to?
Yeah. This is hard. I like it's hard because I really like Kevin's pick better, but I just think that Ryan argued his better, so I got to give the point to Ryan. Sorry.
We go on to question number 3, and I just have to reiterate here, Kevin, you need this point to stay alive. Otherwise, it will be a knockout. And just to remind you, because I don't know if I actually mentioned it at the opening, you do have a minute extension if you want to use it. For either your opening or closing. I've probably forgot to mention it. That's my bad, but yeah. But the question is, which TV show city would you most want to visit? And Kevin, you go first on this one, and time begins when you start talking.
The TV show city I'd most like to visit is Springfield, USA, from The Simpsons. Some points I'd like to make in my opening are, I would like to see, first off, what my avatar would look like. I would like to know where the Springfield is. I know it's in our heart, but really, where is it? I'd like to spend a day with Homer, maybe have a beer at Moe's, Slurpee, and a donut from the Quickie Mart. Give Flanders some hell, and meet some of the guest stars, and just see if I can figure out that secret of how they don't age at all. And I'll give up the rest of my time to Ryan.
Ryan, 90 seconds left on the clock. Time begins when you start talking.
The place I picked, unfortunately, is not honestly a good one. But I picked New York City, which is the setting for the TV comedy Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I picked that not because it's a real place, but because of the characters that inhabit that environment. Like the characters of Detective Jake Peralta, Captain Raymond Holt, Rosa Diaz. These characters they're all they're all like when it comes to ice cream, they're all like a sort of flavor there. You kind of just want to meet them and get an idea of what it's like. I would have this book as my character being either a detective newly transferred to the 9-9. That way you get to interact with each of these characters, or you can have your character be someone of upper echelon, either a police captain coming to visit the 9-9 for a day or for a week, just to get an idea on how they tackle crime happening in New York City. That way you get to experience Jake Peralta, the man-child / genius detective. You get to meet Boyle, the foodie, who has certain tastes that you kind of think is a little too extreme. And then, of course, you get to meet possibly my favorite character, which is Raymond Holt, the strong, logical robot, but ultimately a damn fine good captain. And I'm going to stop my time right here.
Right, 5 minutes is on the clock, and time begins when someone starts talking.
First off, if you need a ticket to New York, I'll buy you one tonight. Second, I think you could probably find those characters in police precincts all around the country, Ryan. I think they're based off of pretty much like real people. I mean, I'm not going to name names, but I know people that are similar to those kind of people anyway.
I would also argue the same thing for The Simpsons. You immediately just asked in your opening, where is Springfield? And Springfield is an actual county in Illinois, but the difference is there is an animated realm, but at the same time, you can't say that characters like Principal Skinner or Krusty the Clown or Mo at Moe's Tavern or Barney aren't based off of actual people as well. I mean, we've all known like there's a bar where you got the scowly bartender or the town drunk, or you have a doctor, or you have your licensed your licensed practitioner. You know, the difference is that it's the family that makes unfortunately, that makes the show important.
Nobody knows that Dr. Hibbert that's made that many mistakes over the years that's still allowed to have their doctor's license. Come on. Let's be real.
I mean, okay, you can do small towns though, because even though Springfield is technically a city state,
and it's a city in Illinois, by the way.
Yeah, it's a city, but ultimately the show paints it as kind of like a small town kind of feel. With New York City, yes, it's a big city there, but with characters in the Brooklyn Nine-Nine, like Sergeant Terry Jeffords, pretty much the muscle-bound cop, but this is a guy who's a family man, and who's not to say you kind of want to spend a day talking with Terry, having him tell stories about his 2 children, or meet with Rosa Diaz, honestly the silent type, but the moment you follow her on a beat, you know this is a cop you want in your neighborhood. This is a cop you want to protect you and your family.
I want to spend a day with more like with Mr. Burns and see what it's like to be a billionaire that owns a nuclear plant in a small town and that everybody can't stand, and maybe the queen that visits, see how that goes in Springfield. Donald Trump, see how that went when he came down the escalator years before it actually happened. I mean, so many things happen in Springfield that actually happen in real life. There's
That's because I mean, it mainly falls into the fact that the show has free range to do whatever it wants because it's in this animated world miniverse it set itself into. With Brooklyn Nine-Nine, though, not everything that needs to be reality, though, but it can still be fine-tuned to where even though most of the cops in 9-9, even though like you said that you could find them anywhere, but in reality, you won't find someone like Jake Peralta who's more into fun. Sure, you want to hang out outside of it, but when it comes on the job, if you met a cop actually like that, he would not be a detective. He'd be more of a patrol officer. So
I don't think any of them might be on the force, but okay.
Any of them?
Well, no, not any of them, but I'm talking about like Peralta and maybe the 2 big guys. But
no, I'm pretty sure characters of Hitchcock and Scully who were written to make fun of cops. They were written to be made to make fun of cops like from the 80s and 90s who who can do or almost say anything, but for some reason are being kept on, which mirrors today to where you have cops who are doing despicable acts, but for some reason are still kept on the force. And characters like Hitchcock and Scully, that's a tie to reality. And to say that a character like Captain Raymond Holt, an openly gay black detective, who has a high position and rank, that is not only a person I want to meet, but someone who has stories to tell of not only the cops, not only of the crimes they've solved, but the discrimination and the hill they have fought.
Okay, well, on the same token, I would like to go and expose people like Mayor Quimby who are crooked, and cops like Chief Wiggum who are on the payrolls, and I would like to do stuff like that. So, I mean, there are good things I would like to do by going to Springfield as well. I'm not just saying I would like to go and just gallivant around and just see real life comparables like you're saying. It's more of, there are other things too. I would also go kick Nelson Muntz's ass for bullying kids for 20 or 30 years done that he's done. But that
you didn't really answer the whole thing. Like one of the things you mentioned in your opening, like you want to figure out how come they're not. Damn it!
All right.
You got me there.
All right. So got the closings, and Kevin went first on the opening. So Ryan, you're going to go first on the closing. 1 minute is on the clock. Time begins when you start talking.
To visit the city of New York as an outsider, and through the one of the things of visiting a different town or a different city, you get to meet the locals and hear how the city is from their eyes. The cast of Brooklyn Nine-Nine, this is a cast of characters that love what they do while being in the city they love the most. And what better way in order to experience New York City is through their eyes. Listening not to just Terry Jeffers talk about how much he loves his kids, but certain spots or landmarks in New York to visit. Or even Jake Peralta, who, even though he's a man-child, he's like someone who can definitely tell you some of the cheapest spots, cheapest places to get food. But then you have an argument with Charles Boyle on because he'd rather show you a nice exotic spot to eat in New York. You'll get a whole layout of the entire city through these characters, whether it's the uptight Amy or through Captain Holt, or through Rosa, or even Gina Linetti, the mean queen, who will rather prefer you the fun, exciting spaces to be in New York City. Not only do I want to hang out with these characters,
I
should have taken that extension.
Kevin, you got 1 minute on the clock. Time begins when you start.
I'll take my minute extension, Malcolm.
All right, you got 2 minutes on the clock, and time begins when you start talking.
Okay. First off, I want to visit Springfield, USA, because it just looks like a fun place to visit. There are so many different characters there with different personalities. You have so many different guest stars, different cameos, even people I've mentioned on this cast. Hugh Laurie's been on it twice. You got the Treehouse of Horrors. You have so many excellent adventures that you could have, and it actually answers the question, which TV show city would you most like to visit? I feel like New York City is just a city. I feel like that the answer that Ryan has given are answers, are there people that are comparable to people that we could find in police precincts, as he stated, throughout America, throughout any town USA, whereas some of mine that I have given you, such as the Queen, past presidents, philanthropists, rock stars, billionaires, all your heroes, and yes, even Donald Trump, have appeared on The Simpsons. So yes, I would visit The Simpsons in Springfield, USA, and I might even catch Family Guy while I'm there. So I'll concede the rest of my time.
Um, there was definitely a heated debate there. I'm going to go to Nikki first. Nikki, who gets the point and why?
Yeah, two great arguments right here. Both of them, the cities. I gotta agree with Kevin. That's answers the question better, I think, and I think he just had a better argument overall. Yeah, Springfield, USA, which, by the way, Springfield, Massachusetts is what I think it is. That's where Six Flags New England is. So yeah, point Kevin.
Matt, I'm going to go to you. Who do you think should get the point?
By the narrowest of margins, I think I'm going to go with Kevin, just because he kind of explained a little bit more on what he would want to do there. Ryan kind of just explained the characters he'd want to hang out with, but I'm going to admit this is just by the narrowest of margins. It really came down to his closing.
Yeah, with that, Kevin does get the point on this. But we do have another question.
Point of order, real quick. There is also a Springfield in Oregon State as well,
And in Ohio.
I mean, there's probably Springfields around the world.
I think there are, yeah.
I mean, there's also there is a Dunedin in Florida.
On Illinois, though. For the show, they focus on Illinois.
Yeah,
I live in Canton, which is in China, so.
yeah. I mean, the city I live in New Zealand, there's also a Dunedin in Florida, and so.
Well.
But geography lesson aside, but this isn't the geography debate. The next question is: which Marvel superhero should get their own TV show? And Ryan, you're going to go first on the opening. 90 seconds will be going on the clock once I set it up. And time begins when you start talking.
The hero I picked for the Marvel, for the person who the hero who should, for Marvel to get this TV show is the character Wong from the Doctor Strange universe. Now, I picked Wong because from his introduction in Doctor Strange, he was already an established sorcerer under the tutelage of the Ancient Ones. So and then between Doctor Strange and Infinity War, there's a gap that is missing, and also between Infinity War, in Endgame, the 5 years it's missing. There is 3 different areas where we can focus our Wong TV show, or have this sort of like a mini series, a limited run TV show, so where we can focus, or we can have the main show take place during the 5 years after, like an Endgame, to explain what happened. Like, how is Wong carrying on from Doctor Strange being snapped out of existence? How is the sorcerer community? Is he rebuilding it, or is he mainly still at the Sanctorum, to where we can do flashbacks of his tutelage under the Ancient One, to him first meeting Mordo, to when he establishes himself as a sorcerer in his own right, the sort of villains, the sort of nightmares he's faced, to which makes him a worthy ally of Doctor Strange. And in some ways, almost as a Sorcerer Supreme, like not exactly, but a Sorcerer Supreme adjacent. So let's say during the 5 years missing, he's sort of filling in the role of Sorcerer Supreme until he is for sure aware of when Doctor Strange's plan is fully executed. But even if Endgame, even if
time.
Good God, that's too much to say.
All right. Now Kevin is going to tell us if Ryan made the wrong decision with his pick, or. But 90 seconds is on the clock. Time begins when you start talking.
All right. My Marvel hero that I chose that should get their own TV show is Moon Girl, and I also chose to be with her Devil Dinosaur. I think we need something new and fresh, and what's newer and more fresh than a superhero that's a 9-year-old African-American little girl genius that doesn't wear a costume. She has a partner that's a big-ass dinosaur. Oh, he's a red dinosaur named Devil Dinosaur. and he used to be partners with Moon Boy. He went through a portal with the Night Stone, and as Moon Boy's dying wish, connecting him to Moon Girl. So they live on the Lower East Side, and I'll leave that as my opening.
Now, got a interesting battle on the hands. 5 minutes is on the clock. Time begins when someone starts talking.
Look, Kevin, Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur is a fresh concept, but so far when it comes to the huge array of Marvel shows we have here, it's going to be kind of hard to at least find an audience under that. I mean, it's not. I'm not saying it's difficult, but I'm not going to say it's impossible. It's just when it comes with choosing Wong, we have someone who can take place outside of the outside of the MCU, kind of like the Netflix shows did, or even with some of the other shows like The Runaways, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and Cloak and Dagger.
I guess we would know because Wong featured prominently in a 1978 made-for-TV series, and he was in the 1990s Spider-Man animated series. He was in the Superhero Squad show. I mean, he's just a sidekick. He has no superhero abilities.
He's just a sorcerer. In the comics, he is almost as knowledgeable on magic as Doctor Strange. The only difference is
He's a valet. That's it. He's a sorcerer, but he can do just spells without Doctor Strange. That's it.
Doing spells, that means he is sustainable. He can be able to do things on his own. Before Stephen Strange became, even in the comics and the movies, before he became a sorcerer, before Stephen Strange became Sorcerer Supreme, or even found the city of Shang. Holy crap! I'm losing myself here. No, the focus is that Wong is an established sorcerer. He knows what he's doing. The reason why I picked him, yes, he is a side character, which is why he's perfect for certain shows like that can take place during the 5 years between in Endgame. Because one thing that can do, he can fill in the pieces. With Devil Girl, with Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, you're taking a character where you might have to throw her somewhere with you
don't have to throw her anywhere. She lives on the Lower East Side in New York. The Devil Dinosaur came through a vortex. It's already written. Jack Kirby wrote it. It's written perfectly. She is a preteen African American. She is lower class. She is a super genius, though smarter than Iron Man, it even says. And so that is something fresh, man. That's something that kids nowadays need to see. That kids would look up to, I think. I mean, what is there like that? I don't know of anything like that.
The question is, but you're saying she lives along the Lower East Side of New York. The biggest problem that's going to be addressed during her show is, will she encounter, or did she grow up during the time of did she ever encounter any of the Avengers? Or
no.
How is it that?
No, she would just protect her. It would be like Hell's Kitchen. She would only protect her own little part of the Lower East Side. That's how it is in the comic books. So she
is the elephant in the room, to where it's going to grab attention if she's carrying around New York City, Lower East Side. How is the fact when people are going to report the fact they see a dinosaur not going to come across the attention of someone like
the Chitauri didn't raise any red flags?
Yeah, but the Chitauri, they were defeated and gone. One thing Doctor Strange pointed out is that Wong, the ancient one, and Mordo were able to exist with magic outside of everyone's provisional eyes for years before Strange even met Iron Man in Infinity War.
Devil Dinosaur also does exist also outside the eyes of anyone else.
But the problem is that if she is protecting people, like you say, random people are going to ask, cops are going to have all these reports of a girl with a dinosaur that sooner or later going to pass up to someone like Nick Fury, or someone, or even might get the Iron Man's attention, where they're going to investigate. With Wong, He has one thing that they showed in Doctor Strange, the invention of the mirror dimension. In the mirror dimension, they can do as many battles there without having the necessary of collateral damage happening.
So are you saying that?
Witnesses.
So who else is gonna have to be there then?
One of the things why I think Wong is perfect, because we don't need to. He can exist outside of the Marvel Universe, just like Cloak and Dagger and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. They can reference the characters, they can reference the movies, but they don't have to interconnect with each other. And also, you can also introduce new characters into this Wong series. You can have him have many battles with Mordo. You don't have to do one thing with. You can still do a fresh take on a Marvel hero by not having an extreme point of. Oh, God damn it.
We go to the closings, and because I went first on the opening, Kevin, you go first on the closing. 1 minute is on the clock. Time begins when you start talking.
First off, Wong is just a sidekick, a mere valet without Stephen Strange. He's never even performed, only helped Stephen Strange perform a magical spell of his own. He's well trained in martial arts. That's it. Nothing magical. Lunella Lafayette, Moon Girl, and Devil Dinosaur, a modern day gadget twirling, slurping, kick ass, young, strong African American woman. That's what we need on TV right now for the young children and for the preteens. That's exactly what we need, and we don't need to see Wong on TV.
Is that you can see it in the rest of your time?
Yes, sir.
Ryan, you got one.
Use my mid extension.
So Ryan has got 2 minutes on the clock. Time begins when you start talking.
Wong is necessary for a hero to get their own show, because not only is he a strong sorcerer, right? He is a man who is full-blooded Chinese, a Chinese origin, which introduces your diversity there. He is also a bridge for many people who were introduced to Doctor Strange through the MCU, who were curious about the world of magic that was brought to us. We got maybe 2 years until another Doctor Strange movie. We can't wait. There's too much time in between to find out exactly how magic works, its limitations, its rules, the sacrifices, the risks, and the costs. Also, with Wong, we can introduce a variety of characters, original ones, as I stated before, with having, during the 5 years, Wong, he has to rebuild the sorcerers. He has to rebuild that organization. So guess what? He's going to find children, teenagers, adults, anyone who has the strength of magic, who has a touch and the genius to be able to control and harness magic. And through that time of Wong being a teacher, we do flashbacks to his time with Strange after the first movie, him working with Strange inside the Sanctum, building their budding friendship, almost to him having a bit of a survivor's guilt for the fact that Doctor Strange was snapped away. And even we can create new enemies for Wong to face, for him to have to go back and do flashbacks to his time under the Ancient One, for him to realize and to understand and empathize that the Ancient One had just an even harder time against people like Mordo, with Caecilius, that even he himself cannot be as great as the Ancient One, but he can still be a sorcerer strong in his own right. So then after the movies of Endgame happen, when Doctor Strange snapped back, we can set up this new conflict to where Strange and Wong might have to butt heads with each other. Sure, Strange is the Sorcerer Supreme, but Wong was the man who was left behind, who had to pick up
time.
Oh, oh God.
All right, there was definitely a very heated battle here. And that's what happens when you put a geek question into two people that really in that well, but
I'm pretty sure your first geek question would have been as tough.
well,
Yeah.
true. But Nikki, who can give you point to and why?
Well, there's a multitude of characters that you could have picked up to get their own spin-off series, get their own show on a Netflix or an ABC, Disney Plus, wherever it may be. Kevin, again, I think you made a really bold choice. Like, you're really going out there with your answers. Ryan, I think out of the two pitches, like hearing both of your arguments, the show that I would be more likely to watch is the Wong Show. So I'm going to give my point to you.
Matt, who are you going to give your point to and why?
I'm going to give my point to Ryan because he just laid out his show more. With Kevin, he didn't really explain what his show would be about. Ryan laid out the groundwork. It would take place during the blip or snap, however you want to call it. We could go back and forth in time and see stuff that's happened and stuff that hasn't. And Kevin just kind of said, well, we need an African-American teenager who's really smart. I wish he would have laid the groundwork of his show out a little bit more. So with that, Ryan gets the point.
Yeah, and like with that, one does get the point. So, but with that, he did put up a valiant effort. But
Thanks.
Ryan strategically used his 1 minute perfectly. It's probably the first time that someone's actually used the extensions on two different questions rather than both using it on the same question. So that's definitely a good strategy for people if want to look at a good strategy ways of doing that. But yeah, with that we go to post interviews. I'm going to go to the second place person here first. Kevin, you put up a good fight. It's your first debate, so it's easy to be overwhelmed. But how do you feel about how the match went down?
No, I don't feel. I don't beat myself up at all. Ryan is a beast, man. He came at me hard, and even though I felt prepared, he just was more prepared than me. And he had me on that last question for sure. So damn good match, and maybe I'll see you down the road, Ryan.
I will be scared. I will be terrified.
But unfortunately, I don't have anything more for the rest of the season. But we'll get you a next season at some stage, most definitely. Unfortunately, at this stage of the year, like if you lose, it's hard to get you in for another match.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see you next season. We'll be there. But Ryan, you put up a good fight. Well, yeah, obviously because you won, but
No,
but what, how do you feel about how the match went down?
Oh, Kevin, seriously, your first match, dude, that was fantastic. I mean, you had me talking so much in this match. One thing I made a mental note to myself, don't talk a lot. Because in my past experience in matches, that is always ultimately, it's either cost me a round that I wanted to win, but that just shows, Kevin, you definitely know exactly where to change the subject, which you definitely got me on the last two questions. And I am, and yeah, if we do come across each other in a different genre, I mean, in a different tournament or a different debate match, I'm not going to. I'm going to be more. Well, how prepared you said I was. I would try to be even more prepared. But it's all about the questions. I mean, geez, I'm still going over the Marvel TV show.
Me too, man. Same with Game of Thrones.
Yeah, with their pitches, yeah. I'm going through so many other things that we could we could pitch this, or we could do that. But yeah, I think moving forward, I just hope my future opponent doesn't look at this and go,
Yeah.
keep him talking.
But yeah, I do have your next match lined up for you. You'll be facing the winner of either Jacoby Bancroft or Dustin Mason. Who are you not looking forward to?
Well, I don't know when it's gonna be released soon, but I do have a Nerd Fights match against Jacoby. So depending on when that match is released or what happens there, depending on when this match is released, one thing's for sure. I mean, I'm only going to be facing against Jacoby, so I'm going to have an idea of how his style is going to be. But Dustin, you know what? I really have no preference here. I mean, you could throw me you could throw Cody at me, and I could still have the same approach where I just need to be attentive. And as I've mentioned, don't talk a lot because I've judged some of Cody's matches and he's the champ in most areas. So I know he would easily knock me out.
But with that, it brings us to the other end of the match. But one thing I do say, at the end of the year, in December, we will have a title match. I didn't actually get this set. But I don't know who is facing us, but I believe we will get something sorted. But apparently Jay's hacked the thing, and he just continuously wants Cody. So what I'm going to do is, because Jay won't stop messaging me, give me Cody constantly, and bringing up all the time, the title match will be a rematch between Jay and Cody again. It's going to be hot. It's going to be fire.
Wow.
I think I may have judged the match between those two before.
But yeah, that might have been that same title match.
I think, I did judge. I think I did judge the title match between those two.
As far as I know, that's been the only match you've had. So, but yeah, I was initially going to put it a number one contenders match, but apparently one of the contenders had to drop out for personal reasons. So so I thought on the fly, I was like, well, I can either make up another title match but have it uneven, or I could just do it to rematch, because it makes sense that way, because there isn't a lot of records at the moment. So that's what I'm doing. But yeah, and it's what's going to happen. But until next time, we'll see you when you see it, and don't change